A long absent star is in town for AEW Double or Nothing. Triple H addresses that King of the Ring controversy. A huge name makes a surprise appearance on AEW Collision last night, and the AEW Women's Division looks set to get another major boost. Hello and welcome to the Solo Sunday News here at What Culture Wrestling. Myself, Andrew Pollard. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. I hope if you're here in the UK, you're having a great bank holiday weekend, or whatever you're doing, I hope it's going well for you. Right, let's get into wrestling news. And the first story here is AEW Double or Nothing, of course, takes place later today. There's been several AEW stars who've been out of action for a long period of time, and one of those could well be returning today. That one is Juice Robinson. Now, Juice Robinson, this comes from Fightful Select, who report that Juice has been spotted in town in Las Vegas for Double or Nothing. He has not wrestled since November, so we're looking at, 6 months out of action, essentially, for Juice Robinson. That last match was at the start of November. It was teaming with Jay White and the Guns against MJF, Billy Gunn, and the Acclaimed. Since then, Juice, unfortunately, has had back issues that required surgery, but it looks like maybe, who knows, possibly he could be on the cusp of a return. Although this Fightful report does specify that this isn't necessarily an indicator that Juice will be returning, just he's in Vegas. So, hey, make your own mind up on that. Juice Robinson, of course, is the husband of timeless Tony Storm, so he could be there just accompanying his wife, or he could be there just to visit friends and generally take in the pay-per-view. Who knows? But Juice Robinson, he is there. He is there for Double or Nothing. I love Juice Robinson, man. Since the CJ Parker days, I was one of those few people who really dug CJ Parker in NXT. I really enjoyed his theme music for some reason. I don't know, man. Hey, it seemed like I was one of the few people at that time. But yeah, very talented dude, Juice Robinson, and a very talented dude who's very much been missed from AEW television, whether he returns today or at some point in the coming weeks and months. That guy is just such a electric, magnetic presence. A highlight, a star of those early collisions when the Bang Bang Gang were actually having good matches and not just being thrown in trios guff that nobody gives a single solitary I can't say that word, thing about, should we say. But anyway, moving away from Juice Robinson and over to WWE and Triple H. Now, if you watch King and Queen of the Ring last night, there was one moment that was a bit like, that's disappointing, because Gunther and Randy Orton had a fantastic match in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. Gunther going over in a really, I thought that the way they did it was really clever, because Randy Orton in recent weeks has been selling his knee, obviously selling his back, because that's the back that was surgically repaired and kept him on the shelf for over a year, was it 18 months, I think. So Randy's had this story the last few weeks of being beaten down. Gunther, on the other side of that, has had this story on Raw, where he's been just cracking and tapping fools, Sheamus, Jey Uso, just getting these really statement impactful wins by submission. Kofi Kingston as well, another one. And so the story there was, it made for really great fun wrestling story of the big beast Gunther, who loves submissions, against the wounded Randy Orton, and the win came for Gunther, King Gunther, the King General of the as they were pushing. The win came when Randy hit a second RKO of the match, went for the pin on Gunther. Gunther at 2 hit Randy in the injured knee, which was just, I love that, man. That was so smartly done. And then got Randy into a crucifix pin for the 1-2-3. What I didn't love was clearly one of Randy Orton's, I guess it'd be his right shoulder, was way off the mat for pretty much the whole of the 3 count. So some people like, is that a botch? Was that supposed to happen? Is that part of a wider story where Randy has a gripe to come back to? By all accounts, it was just a botch, but Triple H has addressed this, because it was very much, I guess, an elephant in the room, you would say, where you couldn't not address it because it was so obvious and so clearly caught on camera. Now, he spoke to Byron Saxton, Triple H, that would be, and he said that he didn't see it in real time, but he did see it on the replay, because, of course, Triple H was out at ringside, as he did with Nia Jax, the Queen of the Ring. He was there to present the crown to the winner of the King of the Ring, in this case, Gunther. So he didn't see it at the moment, but he has seen the replay back, and yes, Randy Orton's shoulder is clearly off the mat. Triple H did say that the referee's decision is final, but then he essentially said that, yeah, there will be a rematch, because as Trips put it in a kayfabe sense, that Gunther will want to make that right and remove any questions or asterisks over his win, any controversy from that win, and he would want to win the King of the Ring without any of the BS that might be thrown at him, as in like, yeah, but the dude's shoulder was clearly up. No. So Triple H used that logic, and also said that Randy, of course, will be wanting a rematch, and that will happen, but he did say that Randy has got knee and back issues, so it will be a moment or two, was the phrase that Triple H used, until we get that match again. But hey, If we can get Randy Orton and Gunther against somewhere down the line, sign me up. I went into that match hoping for something good, and it was. It was very, very good. I enjoyed that a lot, man. Just, it was slow, methodical. Some people will say maybe it was too slow. And Randy Orton, of course, over the years, as somebody that has been accused of being very, too slow, too plodding in his matches. This was the right balance for me. I just thought it was just, the story told was really good professional wrestling, and I like really good professional wrestling. And one person who is a very, very good professional wrestler is Hiroshi Tanahashi. Yes, Tanahashi made a surprise appearance that nobody saw coming on last night's AEW Collision. Now, there we had Claudio Castagnoli and Daniel Garcia against Lance Archer and the Righteous in what was looking like it was going to be a 2-on-3 handicap match. Then Claudio, the slide dog, kind of paused and then turned towards the entrance ramp, and there we saw the ace of New Japan Pro Wrestling, the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling these days, of course, Tanahashi, which, I thought if they were going to have a mystery partner, a surprise partner, Tanahashi is something that I did not have on my bingo card, and it's always good to see Tanahashi, man. I mean, obviously, Hiroshi Tanahashi these days in 2024, 47 years of age with so much wear and tear in his body, is not the Hiroshi Tanahashi of 10 years ago. That goes without saying, but it's just, it puts a smile on my face every time I see that guy on my TV. Just what a presence, what a talent, what a legend of the business. The phrase living legend is something that gets thrown around way too much. The phrase legend is something that gets thrown around way, way, way too much by everybody in every sort of context. Hiroshi Tanahashi is a bona fide legend of the professional wrestling business, so it's cool to see him. And he did get the win for his team here in the High Five Flow on Vincent. And the announcers were pushing the idea of the Forbidden Door has come early, because the Forbidden Door, this year's Forbidden Door, takes place on the 30th of June. So what we are, the 26th of May today. So just over a month away. And I don't know if it's been officially announced, but there were plenty of rumors anyway, at least, and speculation that this year CMLL and Stardom were going to be a part of Forbidden Door alongside AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that's something to keep an eye on. Now, this was Tanahashi's first AEW match since he lost to MJF, who was then the AEW World Champion, back at last year's Forbidden Door. Before that, I believe he had 3 other matches, Tanahashi in AEW. There was the tag team with Mox against Jericho and Lance Archer, I believe, which that was in the build to Forbidden Door against Moxley for Tanahashi, where he lost. And then after that, there was a win over Swerve Strickland in the build to last year's Forbidden Door. Of course, Swerve Strickland these days is the AEW World Champion, so would that be revisited? Probably not these days, but it's nice to see anyway. But right, one last news story, and it does involve AEW, and it does involve the AEW Women's Division, who that division looks like it could be getting another boost. Now, I know what you're saying, that the use of the AEW ladies has not been exactly great throughout AEW's history, but that is down to the booking and how they're used rather than the actual talent itself. If you look at that roster from top to bottom, there are so many talented women there. And one person who could well be joining those ranks is Megan Bayne. Now, this is a report from Fightful. Megan Bayne is somebody who might be, I guess, for a lot of wrestling fans, out of sight, out of mind, but she's somebody that's been signed to AEW for several years now. First wrestled for them in 2021, has only had 7 matches during that time, the last of which was last year, a tag team match that was a dark match, where I'm trying to think what the team was. I'm pretty sure Makito was involved on the other side. But anyway, the point being, she's been away from AEW a lot. 7 years, sorry. It's been 7 years. No, 7 matches in 3 years. Tells its story there. Now, part of this story, though, is that at the beginning of 2022, Megan suffered a major ACL injury that effectively kept her on the shelf for over a year. And then when she did return from injury, as mentioned, under AEW contract, AEW said, like, maybe look at getting some outside bookings and get some dates that way. As such, she spent the bulk of the past 12 months absolutely killing it in Stardom, just putting on so many great matches. I worked a handful of GCW dates as well in recent weeks, and just loads of indie dates as well throughout that time. But now Fightful Select reports that the AEW is looking to bring Megan Bayne back into the fold. Creative pitches are being made, with the plan being to bring her back as a heel full-time to AEW. And that, for me, is, I think it's a very smart idea to bring her back into the fold, because she's a really talented girl, man. The work she's been doing, only 25 years of age, there's such a high ceiling for Megan Bayne from what I've seen from her anyway. So yeah, again though, there is always going to be that yeah, but AEW have loads of really talented women already, and what are they doing with them? There is that argument, and that's an argument that I do not have an answer for. That is only one person can answer that, of how and why, or the ladies are being used as they are, or not being used entirely, and that is Tony Khan. But yes, in terms of ability, Megan Bayne ticks so many boxes. So that could be a fun one to keep an eye on. Right, in terms of fun ones to keep an eye on, let's get to your questions as I wrap this up. On this bank holiday weekend, my voice is still a little bit knackered, so apologies about that. It's like 10 weeks now, man. Come on. Anyway, right. Hector Garcia III's got a touch. Hey, Hector. Who's the wrestler and non-wrestler at the top of your list to interview that you haven't yet? What are you most interested in wanting to learn about them? For those who haven't seen it, check out the interview with Ricky Starks. Thanks for the plug, Hector. Yes, I did sit down with absolute Ricky Starks. Be about 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks ago today. I sat down with him and did an interview which got published later that week. That is on our What Culture Wrestling on our YouTube channel, and that was an interview that did the rounds a lot in news cycles because of some of the things that Stark said that maybe got taken out of context a little bit. But yeah, just a really fun interview. Always an absolute pleasure, no pun intended, to sit down and have a chat with Ricky Starks. That was round 3 for me and Ricky, so we'll be doing it again at some point, probably in 2 years' time, because that's how it's been, cyclical. But yes, in terms of wrestlers I'd like to sit down and have a chat with, if I knew any Japanese, I would love to interview Jushin Thunder Liger, but I know 0 Japanese, so that is never going to happen. I mean, I could always do an interview in Welsh, I guess, with Mason Bryan. Actually, I did interview Mason Bryan. I nearly forgot about that many years ago. Oh, geez, man, that was interesting. Bret Hart is always the answer to every question, of course, as people will moan at me for. But I have interviewed Bret Hart twice, so yeah. I mean, it's like an obvious one, but not an obvious one. But Steve Austin, I was going to call him Stunning Steve Austin because that's what I'd want to talk to him about. I'd love to talk to Steve Austin about his time in WCW. Stunning Steve Austin. To me, I know I'm in the minority, but and yes, I love Stone Cold Steve Austin, but I love even more Stunning Steve, man. Hollywood Blondes, Dangerous Alliance, whether he's as a solo act with Colonel Robert Parker. Yeah, so I'd like to speak to Austin, but about that period, the early 90s of WCW, about those times, about Team Wood Pillman, about the Dangerous Alliance, what a faction that is. That to me, that is my favorite ever faction. But it was just like such a small period in time that they were together. Them and the Hart Foundation, which again, relatively small period of time, the Hart Foundation were together. So yeah, I go with Austin. Oh, I couldn't not go with CM Punk as well, but I mean, I couldn't top what Ariel Helwani did with CM Punk. And if Ariel Helwani, one of the very best in the business, cannot get details out of CM Punk due to NDAs, then I can't either. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go Austin. He said non-wrestler that I'd like to interview that I haven't. John Carpenter. Yeah, John Carpenter. I'm John Carpenter, or as I'm wearing this t-shirt, Jason Lee of Mallrats fame, and many other various, Chasing Amy for a start. Yeah, go John Carpenter. Kevin Smith be there, but I have chatted to Kevin Smith. So yeah, John Carpenter. Right, let's move on. And what would I talk to John Carpenter about? Everything. That's the answer to that part of the question. Where else are we? Ant Ong has got in touch. Sad that Vader. Actually, this is more a comment than a question, because when I put out a tweet asking for questions, I used a GIF of Vader hopping a beach ball from an episode of Baywatch. And Ant Ong, has replied, was sad that Vader was never pushed as a top heel in WWE. Vince didn't give him the world title, even the IC title, and didn't even induct him into the Hall of Fame while he was alive, and was telling everyone that he only had 2 years to live. I still hate WWE and Vince for that. Yeah, the treatment of Vader in the WWF as it was then, not great. But then it's not all on the company, because when Leon came in, Big Leon the Bull, what a dude, Vader. I got to meet him once. I have such fun memories from that time. Vader, when he came to WWF, he wasn't the Vader he was before in WCW. WCW, that dude terrified me, man. I was, as a young kid watching early 90s WCW, those matches with Sting, I was terrified of Vader. The big helmet, all the steam coming out, Harley Race, his manager. I was also terrified of Cactus Jack at that point, because he was just unhinged. That Cactus Jack, that is my favorite Mick Foley, is that period of Mick Foley as Cactus Jack. But yeah, Vader, when he came to WWF, he wasn't the same wrestler. He wasn't the same worker. He obviously, when he came in, his big debut angle where he took out Gorilla Monsoon and was then suspended. that was due to Vader having a very real injury that he needed surgery. I think, was it his shoulder maybe? But either way, he needed time off. So he's come in white hot as a mega heel, tuck out the president, Gorilla Monsoon, but then you pull him off TV straight away because he's injured. So that didn't help. The fact that when he came back, he was carrying a bit of excess weight. I mean, he was obviously always a big dude. So that affected his work. And then obviously the Shawn Michaels SummerSlam palaver where Vader supposedly was supposed to go over and win the world title. Shawn being Shawn, little bellend that he was back then. I'm never going to let it go, Shawn. Supposedly politics get the match changed. You see it in the match where he's just mocking Vader and calling him an idiot. In other words, I can't say on YouTube or we'll get demonetized. So yeah, after that SummerSlam match, Vader was dead in the water. Yeah, there was the stuff with Undertaker and Kane, but yeah, but Vader, what a talent, man. To me, the greatest big man of all time. Obviously, Andre the Giant's there on the pedestal. Yes, a lot of people will say The Undertaker. It also depends on your definition of big man, but for me, Vader is just head and shoulders. There is nobody I've seen in professional wrestling like Big Van Vader. Just what a talent. So very much missed. So that wasn't a question, but I've kind of responded to it anyway. Anyway, Ty Johnson's got in touch with a question. Good morning to the Solo Sunday News legend. See what I mean? Legend being thrown around as a term. I appreciate it, Ty. I appreciate the sentiment, but far from a legend, brother. Do you think they will do anything about the end of the King of the Ring finals? Considering Norton's shoulder was very clearly off the mat, basically before the ref even started the count. Thanks for the Sunday morning entertainment. Well, hopefully it is entertaining. I've discussed it already in the video, so I probably should have checked these questions before I read through them. But yeah, I'd imagine we'll get... I don't think it'll impact Gunther as King of the Ring in terms of like, oh my God, throwing up questions of like, is he really the King of the Ring? Because that didn't count because blah, 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 shoulder was up. But I do think we'll get a little program out of it. And maybe this is depending on when you're going to, because we will get Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes at some point, and I'm really looking forward to that. For me, if that's depending on what The Rock is doing, I think that's a match you could do at SummerSlam. You could do that match at WrestleMania, let's face it, just with the history there. But I think that's a match for me I'd like to see at SummerSlam. And maybe part of getting to that is that this can put like a chip on Randy's shoulders where I lost King of the Ring, but I didn't lose because my shoulder was clearly up. Maybe that kind of pivots Randy to push him towards going after that world title because he feels like he's been screwed over, and that he should have had a title shot at SummerSlam, which obviously Gunther now has against, well, at the moment I guess it's Damian Priest, but we'll see because Drew McIntyre. So yeah, I guess that's addressed that in a slightly different way than just rehashing the news story that I did earlier. Mark Solid's got in touch. Hey Mark, hey, amazing picture. Apollo there looking like a good boy. As always, send pictures of your pets to me on this Sunday. Me and editor Ryan really do appreciate him. Morning Andrew, been a while. Thoughts on who Solo's wise man will be, or if he will have one at all? There's a couple of options. There is that Solo Sikoa is the wise man. He is his own wise man. There's the option that he could be taking advice from The Rock, who's deemed as his wise man. Or that maybe there's something with Paul Heyman. Now, it depends if you mean wise man or tribal chief, because if you talk about the tribal chief, again, the options there are Solo Sikoa or The Rock, or maybe it is Roman Reigns he's taking all this from. Maybe it's Jacob Fatu. Give me Fatu, please, 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 please. But the wait will be worth it. That's part of that's the whole fun with stuff like this. You want to see things, and so you're eager to see them when they do happen. So anticipation, yes, creating that excitement. So as for a wise man specifically, I don't know. I don't think you can do a wise man when it's not Paul Heyman. But Paul Heyman is the only person that could fit that role in terms of how he acts, how he behaves. Who else are you going to use it in that role as a manager, as the wise man for Solo Sikoa? Robert Stone. I like Robert Stone. I like Robbie E. Yes, man. I'm one of those TNA guys. Robbie E. Yeah, the bromance. Yeah, a lot of love for Robbie E. and the whole entrance they did with Big Rob as well back in the day. That gimmick in TNA. But something like you look at the landscape of WWE managers and who could fill that role, you are looking at somebody, because there's so few and far between, so few managers in WWE right now. So it's Heyman or nobody, I think, for the wise man. And I think Heyman very much will be with the Roman Reigns side of things as and when things fully break down with the bloodline and we get that bloodline civil war. So I don't think Solo will have a wise man necessarily. Tom Talks Rubbish has got in touch. Hey, go and check Tom out on YouTube. There's some great stuff, some great interviews. My man, hey Tom, hope all is well with you. Has there been a moment, a movement, match, or storyline? I'm gonna guess that means moment, match, or storyline, unless there's some sort of bowel movement that's put me off since you started at What Culture that made you go, if this wasn't my job, I'm out. Oh, that's a question and a half. I don't think there is. Obviously there's been wrestling moments where in terms of what you see on TV that leave a bad taste in the mouth. I think the UK Vic, and there's moments away from TV stuff that just leaves you disgusted at times. Obviously, a lot of the Vince McMahon stuff is over the years is things like that. But in terms of a single moment that made me think that I'm done in terms of wrestling, and like I'd quit watching if this wasn't my my job. I don't think there is, I'm call it Stockholm syndrome, if you will, but I'm one of those where when I see something bad, I'll always think more positive that the following week things will get better, and then things won't be. Things will be absolutely horrendous next week. It's like, yeah, but what if next week's Raw is really good, or next week's Dynamite is really good? I'm that wrestling optimist who is always hoping for something better, hoping for something good, hoping there's going to be some amazing story or match or development or whatever, or debut around the corner. And so, yeah, there's not been, I can't pinpoint since I started work at What Culture. I mean, I've been working here since doing freelance stuff, probably 10, 12 years with that. In terms of being full-time here at What Culture is, I think, maybe 4 years, 5 years. So it's been a while, but in that time, there's not been a single moment where I've thought, right, I'm done. So call me daft, call me stupid, call me blind optimist. I will always look for something positive in the following week. Or again, Stockholm syndrome. It's Stockholm syndrome by this point in time. I've been watching this stuff since as long as I can remember, and it's just part of the habit. Whether it's watching WWE, whether it's watching AEW, whether it's watching TNA. It's just that is embedded in me for better or for worse. Right, and on that note, I feel my voice is going raspy again. Will this please come on, man. Anyway, I have been Andrew Pollard. This has been the solo Sunday news here at What Culture Wrestling. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, whatever you're doing. You take care, and I will be back next weekend.